Hello, 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 y'all. I am fortunate enough to be here today with Mr. Scott, and there's a reason he's here. If he's here, Scott, what are you doing here today? Who the heck are you?
I'm just a guy who's been very blessed to do 3,000 plus live events across my career, sharing the stage with virtually every name you know, and I might have learned something along the way.
I'm just going to ask the question I think everyone's curious about right now. Who are some of the speakers you've been fortunate enough to share the stage with over the 30 years you've been speaking?
Stephen Forbes, Colin Powell, Rudy Giuliani, Laura Bush, Jack Canfield, Les Brown, Brian Tracy, John Asser, Harv Eker, and the list goes on. I've been very blessed.
And what is it that kind of got you into this? Because I know speaking by definition is something that people fear public speaking more than death, the majority of people. Not only did you make it, I'm not scared of this anymore, but you maximized it to give you everything you ever wanted in life, touching all the lives you wanted to touch with your messaging. What did that journey kind of look like with you? How did you get into speaking in the very beginning?
Well, it actually goes back to not necessarily have the desire to speak, but have the desire to be able to communicate with people, have the desire to be able to hold a conversation and learn about them and create relationships. I actually started as an 18-year-old life insurance agent while I was going to school and playing Big Ten football. Why did I choose to do all that at the same time? Well, I was going to school at a time when there were no jobs. The economy was horrendous. And so I'm sitting going to business school going, how am I going to differentiate myself from anybody else? And I got this opportunity to become a life insurance agent and learn personal face-to-face communication ability and value-added presentation. And let's say at the University of Iowa, if there were 5,000 other business students going to graduate with the exact same degree as I was, what was going to make me different than all of them? And that was the ability to talk to people. Novel concept, create conversations and create relationships. And as it proved out, I had 7 job offers coming out of college at a time when most people had none. Now, I don't say that for any other reason to say when you invest in yourself to learn a skill set that other people aren't willing to invest in themselves for, it gives you a leg up. And so that's what started the process. I went into corporate America. I became a corporate sales trainer. So standing in front of a room was just a natural thing. And I think this whole thing about people are more afraid of public speaking than they are of death. Quite frankly, if you've been close to death, that's not true, because I have been. But the other side of it is, if you are convicted strongly enough in your position, whatever that position is, you'll get in front of a room in a minute, because the only thing you really want to do is share that conviction and share that position with somebody else for consideration. That's really all speaking in front of a room is.
And so you've been speaking for how many years has it been now?
100% as a professional speaker, probably almost 25. But I mean,
okay,
all the way back to my corporate career before that.
And so I notice a lot of speakers, and you tell me if you do something like this or if I'm totally off here, they do kind of what Jerry Seinfeld did, where they'll give a gig, they'll test some new things in that gig, they'll kind of reevaluate for their next gig, take what worked, keep it, add on to it, throw away what didn't work. So for you, your core message today, if you can share that and what that is, how long did it take for you to evolve and hone down your message until you actually ended up getting to what you're most known for today?
Well, I think that's a great question, because I think the reality is your message and your passion, your purpose evolves over time. And so I read the book See You at the Top by the great Zig Ziglar. I was probably 17 years old. But there was a quote in that book that forever changed my life and set a path for my life. And that was, you can have everything in life you want when you help enough other people get what they want. And so that kind of set the course. So that's kind of the original message. That isn't it funny? 40 years later, I still share that message, right? But the intricacies along the way, the blessing along time is, I agree with you wholeheartedly, or what Seinfeld did, is you actually you test things. I don't know that you necessarily test positions, but you test ways of sharing that position and seeing how people react to it. Do people like one thing that speakers do? I don't want to take the judgment of it being wrong, but it's kind of wrong, is they get uncomfortable with their delivery of their message. They don't believe it's being perceived well enough. So they throw a joke in because everybody laughs and it takes the pressure off, but it takes the pressure off of them because their message isn't landing. And typically they do it at the wrong time. So, I mean, there's a place for humor in speaking. There's a place for using jokes. But it's not when you can't get your point across. That's almost the you give up kind of point. So it's a very unique, again, it's a unique skill set. If you like people, it's easy. Why wouldn't you want to talk to people if you like them?
And get paid for it.
And get paid for it. I mean, that's the happy byproduct,
So for you, I know we spoke a little bit before we're, having this podcast recording here, but there are some very interesting skill sets that speakers and only top level speakers, I think, have, such as selling from stage in the numbers that you mentioned you were able to do. So can you tell us a little bit more about that skill set and where that has brought you?
Here's the bottom line. Okay. If you are in a stadium with 25,000 people, which I've had the blessing to be, and you have 60 minutes to deliver your message and sell a product, which I've done a lot of, you have 4 things that have to happen between the time you get on stage and the time you leave stage. You have to gain trust with the audience. You have to get very good at doing that very quickly. You have to be able to share a story that they can embrace. You have to both present a potential problem that they're living and a solution to that problem. And then you need to make a call to action for them to solve that problem, to take advantage of what you're doing. And so for many, 1,500, maybe 1,700 of my 3,000 talks, I was presenting a $4,000 product from stage. And if you think about the fact that, less than 60 minutes earlier, you had no clue who I was, to 60 minutes later, you're writing a $4,000 check or running a $4,000 credit card. A lot of stuff has to happen in between there. And the blessing is I was able to do that to the tune of over $25 million from the stage. And so thank you. I appreciate that. But it takes the presentation itself. It takes the caliber of the product. It takes a great offer. It takes an amazing team. It's not just the speaker and the presentation. It's the entire team and organization. But I'm honored that I played my role and did that fairly effectively, evidently. But the fact is that you learn how to gain trust. You have to earn that trust. Nobody just hands it to you. You've got to earn that trust very quickly. And then you have to help them see the vision, acknowledge that they've got a challenge in their life. Most people do, or multiples, and acknowledge that this offering that you're making, this solution that you're offering up, is a potential way for them to do it. And not only is it a potential way to do it, it's something they want to do right now. And so it's a very specific skill set. And I am blessed to have learned it from the best of the best, and honored that he would share his innermost knowledge and kick my butt along the way to make sure that I learned it.
Who was this best of the best that you learned from?
John Childers, absolutely amazing speaker trainer, trained anybody who was selling from stage. He was the guy to go to learn that skill. There are 2 types of speakers. There are keynoters, which typically give you a topic and present that topic and get paid a fee for doing that. That's cool, totally respectable and really solid people. And then there are paid by product speakers, where if you sell $100,000 worth of product, you get a percentage of the $100,000. Well, let's just say that you got 10% of what you sold, or you got $5,000 for a 1-hour keynote, or you got 10% of $100,000 in the same hour. Which would you prefer? So the point is that the learning and the executing, implementing, sharing from the stage is actually a more lucrative part of the speaking business. It is not necessarily the easier side of the speaking business. You've got to learn some skill set for sure.
It's probably why it's more profitable on the back end, is because it's harder to get to. So
it really is. And unfortunately, I did a review. One of the things I do these days is I review speakers' presentations. And so somebody had they're a phenomenal talent. And they sent me a webinar that they did, 36 minutes, and it did not sell well, meaning they did not close well. And they asked me if I would watch it and debrief them on it. And we did. And so that 36-minute webinar ended in an hour and 45-minute debrief of going through the various things that were said that could have been improved upon, said that should have been said in the first place, some things that could have been said that weren't said, some sequencing. There's just a number of things. And by the time we were done, they were like, wow, you mean I could take this, reconstruct it as you've just given it to me, and go back and take it to the exact same audience? And I said, absolutely. Because number one, they're not going to remember what sequence you said and what you said. And number two, you're going to be so much more effective this way that you're going to be able to collect on so many more opportunities. And that happened to be a $500 offer. Well, how many $500 offers do you have to close on to make it worth learning how to do it better? Not too many.
Yeah. It's a very high level skill set of being able to audit a webinar, deconstruct it, and restructure it so that it sells. I may have to take you up on that in the future, because I'm going to need some guidance on that after a lot of failures, I would assume. So,
well, again, I wrote big checks to my speaking mentor to learn what I've learned.
Of course.
And writing big checks to him earned me big checks. Okay. Mm-hmm. So people sit there and say, well, gosh, but wasn't that expensive? And you say, which part? The not knowing it or the knowing it? Not knowing it, I would have spent the time and not had the success. So yes, as an example, it was over $50,000 that I wrote him. I made $38,000 in an hour one day. So was the $50,000 to him worth it? That was one talk, was 38. You start to understand, right? Again, this is not an ego or arrogance or anything. This is just the reality of the industry, right? And so when you learn how to do things in a certain way and do it in a way that has been time tested and proven, novel concept, it works. And so what I ask him to do with me is actually, in essence, train me to be him.
Wow.
So just as he audited me, I learned to audit others. And those audits they become invaluable, because that's how you fine tune presentations. It could come down to a single word. In fact, and I don't know if I shared this with you, but one of the early talks I did, I happened to be following him at the exact same event. He did a 90-minute talk. I did a 90-minute talk. He offered, before I went on stage, he said, would you like to do an audit afterwards? I said, oh my God, that would be so amazing. He goes, okay, you do your talk, you sign books afterwards, you come to my room and we'll do the audit. I said, amazing. He said, bring a legal pad, a pen, probably a couple pens, you're going to need it, and come. So I finished my thing and went to his room, and I walked in and knocked on the door, and he said, hey, you ready? And I said, yes, sir. He said, you want a drink? And I said, do I need one? He goes, I'm pretty sure you will. And so he made me a drink, and I sat down and I took a drink, and I was ready with my legal pad. And he said, okay, you ready? And I said, yes, sir. He said, remember at 38 minutes where you said appropriate? Yeah. Advantageous would have been a much more powerful word. Okay, I wrote it down, and I said, what else? He goes, that's it. Out of 90 minutes, one word.
Wow, that's crazy.
The reason for the story, well, first of all, that's the way it happened. But the reason that I share the story is people don't realize in their talks, they'll say one word that takes somebody from ready to buy and embrace you and love you to death to, nope, I'm out. And it can be one word.
And so I've seen a lot of people sell from stage, or at least try to. One thing that I notice they struggle with is building urgency from a visionary standpoint, not a discount and like fast action bonus. Well, if you buy now, you'll get this discount. How do you normally go about structuring urgency when you sell from stage so people in the audience will get on that ASAP?
Well, all the things that you were talking about there at the end are all components of the offer themselves. Regular price, a drop down, a bonus, things like that. Those are all the things, those taking fast action, those are all components of the offer, which are all critical parts of it. But the reality is, if they haven't built the dream, if they haven't built the vision, if they haven't helped somebody recognize the problem or the challenge in their life, and you can do that in a nice way, by the way. It's just, you got to call it to their attention. If you have this challenge and you don't want this challenge anymore, what do you need to do? Well, I need to take action. It becomes logical, right? So the point is, if they haven't built the vision, the dream of, the challenge that they're in the midst of, but the dream of where they can go to strong enough, it really doesn't matter what the offer is. See, if selling is 4 words, identify problem, provide solution. So if I don't identify the problem you're having and you don't feel it's a big enough problem, then it's not really a problem. And if you don't have a problem, there's no need for a solution, so you don't buy. But if you recognize, I got a problem, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. This is, man, the weight of this on me. I could lose my wife. I could lose my family. I could lose my this. Is that the solution you want? Absolutely not. What might you consider other than that? Boy, if I had the education to make the money so that I could do the things that I really want to do, I'd do it in a minute. What if instead of $10,000 today, that was just $39.95? And when you do it today, you'll also get the home study course into this, into this, into this, and the support to make sure that you implement it so you can achieve that dream. I'm there. There's the urgency, right? I don't ever want to sell you anything. I always want you to buy a lot from me. Therefore, it's my responsibility to create that environment for you to want what I have. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
See, because if I sell you something and it doesn't turn out the way it was purported, I'm going to be mad at you. If I buy something, and even if I fail to implement it like I'm supposed to, I can't be mad at you. I did it. So part of this is all the positioning of it, right? Is to help people understand that when you're presenting from stage, you're providing a solution to a challenge in the audience member's life, whatever that might be. So you have to get very good at understanding the potential challenges, helping develop it in a way so that they see it right then and there. They feel enough discomfort that they want to do something about it, and then offer them a solution that allows it to be solved. That's called a sale.
And at what point did you go from making the majority of your money being a paid speaker and getting paid for just you being on the stage and speaking versus earning money from the back end sales, like, or selling from stage, but not earning money from the event organizer saying, hey, here's 10, 20, 30, $50,000 for you to come and talk for 45 minutes. You say, no, I'm all right. I would like, if you give me an extra 30 minutes and I know I'm going to make, an extra $300,000 from stage if I have an extra 30 minutes in my talk. So you keep the money, I'll give you 1% of everything I make. That kind of deal. At what point did you make that kind of swap?
Well, in reality, I set out to be a keynoter. I wanted to deliver content. My desire is to serve the greater good, to help everybody live a better life. And I thought I would do that through communicating content. So I thought that I would, here's 10 grand, come talk to our group for an hour or our convention or whatever. I mean, full time into it, it was probably less than a year. And I got tapped, but my speaking mentor got a call and he goes, I've never recommended anybody out of all the thousands of people I've trained. I've never recommended anybody before. And they said, well, yeah, but you're the best trainer. We need somebody. And they said, up until now, I recommend Scott. And so like I say, I'm very blessed that none of this is ego or arrogance or any of that. I've been blessed to be able to do what I do because I had a desire to serve speakers, prospective speakers, this is one of the most important lessons you'll ever learn. The promoter is first, the audience is second, you as a speaker at best are third. If you understand that positioning, coming on to this podcast today, Ryan, you are first. You're the promoter. The audience, love y'all. You're second. I'm third. If you truly understand that and remember that, that's how you get asked back by the promoters, because you're there to serve them. They're the ones responsible for bringing the audience. So they're responsible to serve the audience. You're responsible to serve the promoter. Because you serve the promoter well, you ultimately serve the audience. And when you serve the audience and the promoter well, you are obviously served.
Mic drop. How long did it take you to realize that?
Right there, brother. I have never said that on a podcast before.
But it's totally true. I mean, in the way you explained it with this case scenario, I'm thinking about a gig I'm giving in Orlando at the end of the year. It's exactly that. And I just didn't 100% clarify it in my head, but I think I knew it somewhere, but you put a message to it. What is your core message today that when you speak on stages, you're speaking about what?
Well, my new book is on connections, because my moniker is the authentic connector, because I've shared the stage with every, I've got a multi-billion-dollar Rolodex. Again, not an ego statement, just it is. I know people. I have worked to get to know people, and I have rarely asked anything of them. And that's the part that allows you to know them over time and grow those relationships. What people don't recognize is you need to create relationships way ahead of the need for having the relationship. What I speak about most often now is really how to create endless connections, how to create authentic relationships that truly matter, that you work to be of service in advance. Really the law of reciprocity, which very oversimplified says, if I do something nice for you, the chances are you'll probably do something nice for me. Now, I don't do something nice for you expecting something nice from you. It is the natural, happy byproduct. And so somebody asked me about somebody in particular a number of years ago, and I said, I'm not a fan. And they said, well, why not? And I said, because every time they do something, there are so many strings attached that I would prefer they not do it in the first place. Again, you can have everything in life you want when you help enough other people get what they want first. It's positioning. It's servant leadership. It's understanding the promoter is first, the audience is second, you are third. If you do a great job with the first two, you're going to do just fine. But if it's you first, the promoter is a pain in the butt, and the audience, gosh, the only thing I want them for is their money, you might get paid that one time, but you're not going to get asked back. Well, I'm in a 24/7, 365 forever business called delivering results. I'm in this forever. And I've never said this to you, Ryan, but the minute we met, you're stuck with me. I'm going to be in your life. Now, I'm not a stalker, and there's none of that. But the fact is, because we've met, we've got a relationship, I'm available to you. That's what I mean by that. And so one of the concepts that I teach is become an asset to everyone you meet. Asset is a 5-letter acronym for a spontaneous servant every time. Become a spontaneous servant every time. The rest takes care of itself. So if you notice kind of a core belief here, that it's about the other person. You got to start from an other's orientation. You got to earn their trust along the way. You have to create a relationship ahead of the need. So again, this is a flippin' nugget from my mentor. He said, if you're speaking at a 3-day event, as an example, always be the first one at the event, always be the last one to leave, and always ask for the last time slot. Now, there are going to be people that say, ask for the last time slot. Everybody's going to have spent all their money. Oh my God, I'm not going to. If that's your focus, you got a problem. See, what I learned from him by doing that, and I watched him do it expertly. If you're the first one there, you have 3 days to create relationships with the audience. So they've gotten past no. They've gotten to kind of like you. You've earned their trust before you've ever gone on stage. And what's the first thing you have to do when you're on stage? Develop trust. Well, if I've used the 3 days in advance of going on stage to do that, do you think I'm further ahead immediately? So now you can modify your presentation so the trust building stuff that you used to architect into the front of the talk, you don't have to architect in as much, right? If you built 15 minutes in to build trust, but you've been there for 3 days and already built trust, you can maybe drop it down to 8 minutes. Well, that gives you 7 minutes of something else. Because again, your time frame is your time frame. That never changes. So the point is that when you learn the intricacies of speaking, it's fascinating because all you're really working to do is serve people. And the more you learn on how to do it, the easier it becomes, and the more you want to serve other people. And so, are you nervous when you go on stage? I don't know anybody who's got 25,000 people sitting in front of them that doesn't have a few butterflies, but the butterflies are fun. They're not, oh, I'm going to die. They're like, oh my God, I can serve this many people. This is so cool. It's a different kind of butterflies. It's the happy kind.
And one thing that I'm noticing with a lot of speakers I talk to is there was a moment for them that maybe they did, there's that first period for many speakers where they're doing pretty much only free gigs to get enough content to build a speaker reel to then market themselves to event organizers, promoters, that kind of thing. At what point for you did that domino fall where it started being not 1 gig a year, not 2 gigs a year, not 3 gigs a year, but multiple a month that you're just go, you're making money on stage or you're getting paid to speak? At what point did that happen, and what did you need to do prior to make that happen? I think a lot of aspiring speakers and professional speakers would find that info valuable.
Well, this is one of those things. I call it a writer downer. This is from my mentor. If you want to learn how to speak, you have to speak. There's no other way to learn how to do it other than to do it. So you accept every opportunity there is to be a speaker. You might be an MC at an 8th grade basketball banquet, which I was. Well, why would you do that? Because it was an opportunity to be in front of people with a microphone. Okay. From the time that I really went full bore in the speaking industry to the time I didn't have any time to do any free anymore for a long time, it was probably a couple years, maybe 3 years, 2 years, something like that. But there was a period I did 288 talks a year for 6 years.
Wow.
I spoke 8 to 10 times a week for 6 years.
In person, on stage?
In person, on stage.
How many times per week?
8 to 10.
Wow. How did you do that?
21,557 words twice a day.
How did you do that?
Well, I was part of an organization that filled rooms and we flew into cities, and this is what we did. And it's an amazing training ground to, and sometimes there were 10 people, sometimes there were 600, sometimes there were everything in between. And then, but as you learn how to do that, that's when the opportunity to be into arenas and 10,000 or 20,000, 25,000, or to be a front man for an infomercial, it all comes because you've got the skill set that's been honed over time. My speaking mentor, he's a nut. He's so cool. But my favorite quote of his, when I said, John, you're so good at this, I want to be like you. And he said, if you want to do what I do, do what I do. If you want to do what I do what I do. That's the part that people don't get is the wheel has been invented. You don't have to make another wheel. Knowing how to do this exists. You just have to learn how to do it. When I went and again, it's not like I hadn't been in front of rooms and I hadn't sold stuff in rooms. And I was a sales trainer. But training and speaking are two different things. It seems like the actions are similar, and many of them are, but in reality, they're very different. So when I made the commitment that I wanted, when I staked the claim in the ground that said, I am going to be a professional speaker, I sought out the best mentor I possibly could that could share that information with me. And then my statement to him was, give me everything you got, and my commitment to you is I won't keep it. I will in turn share it with my students and my clients and become an extension of you. And let me share one story. about John that it's amazing to me because the guy's so brilliant. You would think that everybody would adopt everybody, that he taught. But anyway, one day he was coming through Dallas and he said, "Hey, I'm coming to town. I want to buy you dinner." And I said, "My God, you've never bought me anything. I've written you checks. So you want to buy me dinner? I'm in." So he flew into town. We went to Uncle Julio's and we were about a margarita and a half in, a good Mexican restaurant here in Dallas. And he said, "I got to ask you a question." I said, "Sure, you're buying. So ask away." He goes, "You're the only person of the thousands that I've taught." He said, you're phenomenally successful in what you've done. And I'm so proud of that for you and for what you did. But he said, "You're the only person who has ever done 100% of the things that I suggested they do." He goes, "I have to know why." And I said, "I will gladly answer your question if you answer 2 questions for me first." He said, "Okay, what are the questions?" I said, "How many dollars worth of checks did I write you?" And he gave a number. And I said, "Yeah, that sounds about right." And I said, "How many of those checks did you cash?" He said, "Every one of them." I said, "You now have your answer. Why would I pay you all that money to learn how to do this and not do what you taught me to do?" And he said, "Believe it or not, you're the only one who ever has out of thousands of students." See, we let our ego get in the way. Here we've got a model. We've got a guy. I saw him one day sell over $1 million in an hour on stage. $1 million. And this was 20 some years ago. $1 million was actually $1 million back then. It was a lot. And then you're not going to do what he suggests. You're going to add your little whatever into it, or you're going to take a little bit of him and a little bit of somebody else and a little bit of this, and you're going to make it your own. Okay. Why? Why would you not just do what you've been taught to do that has been proven to work for years? And it never occurred to me not to do that. I guess I don't know what I am, but it was just like, if you're going to give me the magic pill, I'm not going to look for another tablet on the side. You've given me the magic pill. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that do that. And then they either compromise their success or they don't reach the heights that they'd really like to. And then they're upset with the mentor. They didn't do what the mentor taught. It's not the mentor's fault. I mean, failure to implement is the number one challenge in any business, is not doing what absolutely has been known to work. Why would you not do what is known to work? There is a formula. They call it a formula because it starts with form, right? It's laid out for you. Just do it. I am sure that as you did this, as you set up this podcast and you set up stuff, you've done some research on what makes for successful podcasts. And I would suggest you're probably working to do the things that you know to be true to make successful podcasts. Well, I'm going to throw this out just because it puts my spin on it. Did it work? No. Well, then why'd you do it? See, when you're, as a speaker, speakers like to hear themselves. And so they say all sorts of stuff in talks that provide absolutely no value to the audience, but more importantly, provide no value to them. So again, when I'm auditing somebody's webinar, podcast, speech, whatever, at the top of the page, I write, what does that buy me? What does it buy me? It's the question that's asked after every line you say. I say something. What did that buy me? Did that really provide value? Did that move them closer to the purchase or the end result? Or did it just kind of waste time? If it doesn't buy you something, it doesn't belong there. And that's what, again, I'm very blessed to learn this from a man who is an absolute expert at it. But you can sit there and all of a sudden somebody will go on this rabbit trail and you just go, well, what's this buying you? And then the rabbit trail is an 8-minute story that has nothing to do with nothing. And they run 68 minutes of their 60, which irritates the crud out of the promoter, which irritates the next speaker because now they're delayed, which irritates 3 speakers from them because now it creates a chain reaction. And the entire event goes haywire because you went on an 8-minute rabbit trail. People don't understand the mechanics and the dynamics of all this stuff. And if I am proud to be a professional speaker, that means 2 things. That means I get paid. That's a good thing. But it also means that I am a student of my craft and a student of the industry, and I work to be of value to everybody in it. And that's what makes a difference. So if you want to get really good at it, get really good at it. Take the time to watch podcasts like this, to work with people, to work with Brady, to reach out to. If you want to get good at it, work with the people who are good at it. You know, Michael Jordan had a coach. Michael Jordan was pretty freaking good. Why did Michael Jordan have a coach? If he's so good, why did he have a coach? What's the answer? The answer is everybody has blind spots. There are people that have greater expertise. There are people that can be of greater service that are willingly raising their hand to that role saying, God, I'd love to help you. All you got to do is ask, right? All you got to do is, I want to follow Ryan in this podcast every week because there's value here every time. And if I pick up one nugget every time I listen to Ryan in his podcast, I'm moving towards being a professional speaker, right? Not just a whatever. And if your desire is not to be on stage, meaning you're not trying to be a professional speaker, you just want to communicate messages better for your job, for your company, God bless you. That's awesome. But guess what? Learning how to present the messages are still important process. So you don't have to want to be the keynoter or the product sales guy. You can just be somebody within your organization who wants to serve your organization better so that you can serve your customers better. That's cool. That's the way I started. It evolved over time.
You seem like you're always learning and always paying attention to what people that are ahead of you and whatever the niche is that you're looking to learn on, you pay attention to them. I'm assuming that you as a speaker, especially as you were, kind of more on the come up, you paid attention to all the speakers that you were sharing the stage with to see what they did right and what they did wrong to make sure you didn't do that thing or did do that thing. What is one thing that you learned from a speaker that was just another speaker on stage that you took because you knew it would be that needle mover in your business, your speaking business, and you actually implemented it and it did make that difference?
That's easy. At one time, because I was doing so many talks consistently, one of the things that you have to do is you have to train yourself on how to keep it fresh, right? It has to appear as if it's the first time you've ever done it, because for that audience, it is the first time you ever done it. It might be the 10th time you've done it that week, but it's the first time for them. So you got to do that. And one of the things that I never wanted was to become plastic, meaning it was so dialed in that it was so unconscious competent that literally I could be planning my next flight, the meal I was going to have, how I was going to arrange my suitcase, what time I needed to check out from the hotel, and give the presentation all at the same time. Well, if I could do those other things, do you think I was really paying attention to the audience? And I fell into that for a period, very short period, thankfully. But somebody said to me something that I had said to somebody else. I said, I'll never do that because you're plastic. I couldn't feel you. And he goes, wow, that hurts. And I said, I didn't say it to hurt you. I just said it to raise your awareness so that you could do something about it. And then literally a year later, somebody said it to me. God, it hurt because it was the last thing I ever wanted. And so there was a friend, a speaker, who classically may or may not be the greatest speaker technically, but the one thing the crowd loved him. There was never, I probably saw him 25 times, and every time the audience just absolutely loved him. And so the minute that somebody said that, I went, I want to go identify exactly what he's doing. I'm going to watch closer because I always felt it, but I wasn't thinking of what he was doing. And then I saw it and I went, wow. And then I learned it and then I started doing it. Total difference.
Can you share what that thing was?
Well, it was a number of things. It was walking into the audience, you'll be told eye contact is 3 to 5 seconds. His eye contact was 5 to 8 seconds. So when you came into somebody and you looked at them, you locked on to them longer. There was this, right? He would come and, if he would walk in a row or two of the audience, he would put his hand on the shoulder of the person on the aisle. He'd make physical contact with them. You got to read that. but you do it appropriately. But then, like, one of the things he would do is he would put his hand on the shoulder. He would meet their eyes. He would talk to them specifically. He would leave his hand here. He would raise up and then pick off somebody 3 rows back, right over the top of them, and now lock in those 3 rows. And then he would leave his hand there and he would share and go to the other side of the room and lock in over here. And he's still got this connection over here. And then it would separate into. So, I mean, there's a lot of components to it, but what it was is being real. The reason he connected so well with everybody is because he connected so well with everybody. It was a purposeful design to make sure that they knew they were important. And man, I started doing that. It was all the difference in the world. It was absolutely amazing. And quite frankly, as a speaker, far more gratifying. That's the difference between speaking and training. Speaking is you're kind of the rock star. Hey, thank you. God bless. I'm out of here. Training is like, okay, we've done this. I'm here for you. We've got this relationship now. You can always call on me. It's a difference in feeling, right? It's a very heartfelt, relational, strategic. One is intellectual, tactical. I'm supposed to say this. These are the words. I'm supposed to do this at this time. Intellectual and tactical. The other is strategic, heartfelt, relational. You drop into that place. And man, when you're in that place, it's awesome. So now when you can do that to a room of 50, but translate that to a room of 25,000, it's amazing. The energy, the feel, everything that comes from that. So again, I actually, when I audit, I keep 2 pads. One is, wow, that was really awesome. I'll probably borrow that sometime. The other is up for discussion. It's not right or wrong. It's up for discussion. Because until I know your intent for saying what you said, I can't tell you whether it was right or wrong.
Okay.
But I can say, okay, Ryan, at 38 minutes, you said ... What was your desired result in that statement? What were you trying to get them to feel? What were you trying to get them to understand? Oh, okay. If you substituted this word for that word in that same sentence at that same time, they would have felt that. But here was the limiter. That's one thing that comes out of that. The next thing that could come out of that is, okay, if you set that up 5 minutes earlier, if you kind of gave them a scenario where this could fall into place and then drop in that, it would have landed like that. So there needs to be a little construct, right? You've got to construct the presentation a little differently. Or sometimes it's, man, you missed the opportunity. You really had them ready to get that here, and you didn't deliver it until here. So sometimes it's that. But again, that's the pad that has what does that buy me on the top. Because the question is, what does it buy you? If for me personally, we should respect, honor, and dignify everybody we're in front of. So if I all of a sudden throw some kind of sarcastic something at you, what does that buy me? Why would I want to take a shot at you? You're working your butt off to build this business and to be of service to people and do whatever. Why would I take a shot at you? Well, because it's funny. No, it's not. There's no place for sarcasm ever. Oh my God, Scott, you just pissed off 35 people. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I'm just telling them the truth. Because the only person that thinks sarcasm is funny is the person who delivered it. The person it landed against doesn't believe that. Now they might laugh and they might go, "Oh yeah, that wasn't that fun." And then as soon as you're gone, they go, "What a jerk." I don't want anybody. I want to have that. I want you to think I hung the moon. I want you to remember me as, wow, that guy gave us 20 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound time slot. That's what I want to be remembered for. Right? That's another thing my mentor taught me. Give them everything you got every time. 2 reasons. Number 1, they'll probably try to change it and goof it up. And number 2, they may or may not remember it anyway. All you can do is what you can do. My desire is to serve this audience the best way I possibly can through serving you. I can't get them to believe anything I'm saying. I can't get them to say, gosh, I should try that. I can't get them to do anything else. All I can do is offer up from this side something that I believe may be of service to them.
That actually leads me really nicely to this next question I'm going to ask you. And I only got 2 more questions for you because I know we're running over here. What is one piece of advice from your decades of experience that you would give to the aspiring speaker, the professional speaker, and the entrepreneur that speaks to grow their business?
Do it. It's pretty simple. Just do it. You'll love it. If you love people and you want to serve people and you feel convicted about the message that you're going to give, do it. I call them vision vandals. When I went into speaking full time, I left corporate America. I left a job where I played golf 4 days a week. I made more money than I needed, played golf 4 days a week. And the president of the company said, "You're an idiot for going off and doing this." I said, "That's your opinion." He said, "You'll never be successful." I said, "That's your opinion." And he said, "Do you have any clients?" I said, "No." "Do you have any gigs?" "No." "So you've got nothing, but you're willing to give up your career for that?" I said, "Yes, that's how strongly I feel about it." So I'm not suggesting. Now, another piece of wisdom: grow into it. Don't go into it. Grow your way into the process. Go speak at every Rotary Club and every Kiwanis and every networking group and everything. Speak. And what will happen is all of a sudden somebody say, "Would you do this for our group?" "Yeah, we got a $500 budget." "Holy crap, I got $500. Then you get paid and all of a sudden you're a professional and then it starts to go. The key is go do it. Follow your heart. If I could have told my kids anything sooner in their lives, follow their heart. It's the one thing the younger generations have on my generation is we were encouraged to go to school, get a job, do this, but I want to follow my heart. Well, that's stupid. The one thing the younger generations have is, no, it's not stupid. I want to follow my heart. God bless you. How can I serve you? How can I help you get there? That's my next book is really about that, is how to help the generations come together and realize the reason we say sometimes what we say is because we were trained that way. The reason you're saying what you're saying is because that's the way you were trained. All you got to do is recognize that and go, well, I want to help. Okay, cool. So go do it. If you think you want to speak, go speak.
Boom. Scott, where can people find you on the internet if they've gotten so much value from what they've been listening to and what you've been telling? Where can they find you to keep a little mini version of you in their pocket?
Well, I don't hide very well. So scottschilling.com is one place. My email address, again, not hidden well, scott@scottschilling.com. If you got questions after this, if you want to say hi, if you want to go, you're full of crap, whatever. Hopefully you don't say that, but if you do, you do. That's cool. But would love to stay in touch and love to be of service to you any way I can. The good news is that's why I do what I do, because I want to see if we all lift each other up to whatever level we can. Mother Teresa said this: if you can't feed 100, feed one. I would love to serve as many people on this planet as I can. Part of my mission statement is to positively impact 1 billion or more lives on this planet. Somebody once said to me, "Well, that's ridiculous." And I said, "Why?" Facebook does it daily. People do it daily. Are they any better than I am? No. What if I miss it and do 100 million? What if I'm not good at it and do 10 million? What if I'm terrible at it and I only touch 1 million? Would that be okay? They said, "You're serious about this?" I said, "I am." I said, "I want to positively impact as many lives on this planet as I possibly can." Speaking is an amazing way to do that, especially with the tools that we have, like a StreamYard and a Zoom and a YouTube and a TikTok and X and everything else we have available to us today. When I started, we didn't have this stuff. We did it the old-fashioned way. We had to get face-to-face with you. Well, now we get face-to-face in a different way. So reach out.
That's awesome. Guys, well, if you're listening here and you just got a ton of value from what Scott has been sharing here, pardon my language, but seemed to do for the amount of value you were dropping here, you can actually reach out to him, which is amazing. And if you have a friend that you think would find value in what Scott just shared, please share this episode with him, because you never know. It might be that one thing. They might have been on the edge and they might have been just about to take action, and all they needed to hear was what Scott said here to be, okay, I'm in, let's do it. Just do it. He said it. I get it. Game on. If that's what you think it is, share it with him. And guys, thanks for listening. And Scott, thanks for making this happen.
My pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.